Dear brothers, let's start off today with the last part of a poem. Crazy, we're talking about poems on a Monday. From Francis Duggan, and it's called Your Word is Your Honor, which is the title of our podcast today. And it says this: still your word is your honor, and that's how it should be. And to break your word is dishonorable. That's how it seems to me. And those who dishonor their word are those you cannot trust, since a promise made is seen as sacred to the honest and just. Love that. As all of you know, my wife and I and the two pups, my two insane psychopaths, are in the process of moving this coming week, as a matter of fact. And we're slowly doing what everyone does during these transitions, where we're getting rid of things and selling things and looking for new things for this new place, because we're going to have different space and potential of little babies coming in the future and all those kind of things. So we're looking for all of those new stuff and getting rid of some old stuff. And one of the big, awesome newcomers to this new home of ours is going to be a garage gym, which I've wanted for years, but we've always lived essentially in apartments or small places, never had a garage to put a gym in. That's about to change, and I'm stoked about it. So naturally, I've been searching the interwebs and Facebook Marketplace for various pieces of equipment, because one of my rules to people is that it's pretty rare that you should buy things new. Sometimes yes, most of the time there's plenty of used stuff and it works great. And one of the things I'm looking for is a air bike. And so I found a guy on Facebook about 20 minutes away that was selling a Rogue Echo bike, which is, for those of you who don't know what an air bike is, it's got the arms and the legs. It's my absolute favorite piece of conditioning equipment for pretty much the entire world. It has a fan which gives it resistance. It's beautiful. Love it. And I really like the Rogue Echo bike. For those of you who are looking at Echo bikes or looking for those kind of bikes, it's a belt system. So as opposed to some of the other ones that have a chain that you got to mess with, this is just a belt system. It lasts for years. Anyways, so I reach out to this guy. I think it was on Wednesday. And he had listed the bike up for $600. And as is the way of any negotiation, I was like, hey man, would you take $500 for it? Not, I don't know. 20 minutes later, he gets back to me. He goes, hey, as long as you commit to coming to get it, it's all yours. I've got a bunch of people messaging me about it, and I just, want to make sure that you don't back out on it. I got right back to him. I'm like, hey man, you have my word. I own a men's performance company, and I need this for my garage gym and for videos, and it's for my business, and more than anything, you have my word. And he gets back to me and says, hey, I'll even come deliver it to you for $50. So now it's $550. I'm like, that's perfect. Let me connect with my buddy. I'm going to store it over at his garage, which is by our new place. So I'm not trying to put it into our current apartment, which has no room for stuff like that. And so all was good. I was happy. Told the wife that we had found a big piece of equipment for the garage gym. I was stoked. Good price. Guy seemed awesome. So we go to bed, wake up the next day, and I'm going through my morning emails and messages and getting back to clients and what have you, and I get a little ding, and I have the Facebook app open on my computer because we're looking for all this crap, and I click it, and it's from the guy who I bought the bike from. And he said, hey Jackson, I appreciate your interest. I had someone message me this morning that lives 2 blocks away and offered the full $600, so I accepted. And so I looked at this sideways for a second, wondering if I was like reading it appropriately. And then I took a deep breath, and this sense of like severe disappointment kind of fell on me. Not getting the bike means nothing. There's a billion bikes in the world. I can always go get another bike. But it was the fact that a grown man with children and someone who owns their own business gave me his word, and then out of convenience forsook his word, bothered me to no end. His honor was worth a meager $50 and maybe 30 minutes of travel time. And here's the thing, fellas. I'm not blind to having empathy and consideration for other people. If he had messaged me and said, hey man, I have a young family And I had a guy reach out to me from down the street who's willing to give me a couple $100 more than what I was asking for the bike. And I know I already promised it to you, but I wanted to see if you would be willing to either match him or if you'd be okay if I sold it to him. And even though I still think that's not quite the utmost and right thing to do, because it still kind of goes against your promise, I'd probably still be, excuse me, I'd probably still be like, hey man, I totally get it. You have bills and a family, by all means, sell him the bike. That's okay. I at least would have been given the courtesy of that note. Like, hey, I just might get rid of this thing to him because it's better for me and my family. Okay. But that didn't happen. He decided that his word doesn't mean anything, which as a man who runs a business and has a family, that's a pretty slippery slope. But that's also a road that he has to face. It's not my issue to bear, and I'm not the one looking back in the mirror at night. Lord knows I have my own problems which deserve addressing and I should be repentant of. But guys, we need to have a good conversation about the fact that men's word should always mean something. When you give your promise to someone, when you give your word to someone and then you back out of it, you're just lying. Worse than that, you're losing face and you're dishonoring yourself. No one is going to trust you as time goes on because your word doesn't mean anything. In this, especially in this digital world that we have today where people can hide behind computers, there's very little face-to-face interaction. It's so easy to say we're going to do something, then not do it, because the repercussions, at least materially or physically or even verbally, just don't come. You can simply shoo it under the rug and it disappears. You don't have to worry about it. You move on with life. But the spiritual effect, the soul effect, is disastrous. You are tarnishing your character. And eventually, as you do this time and time again, because once you've let it in, it's so easy to do it one more time and another time. You just become the boy who cries wolf. And no one listens to you, no one trusts you. But eventually the big bad wolf does show up at your door. And that might be bankruptcy. It might be your wife has an affair. It might be divorce. It could be your children leaving you. It could be a multitude of other difficulties. But you can track their beginnings back to your inability to keep your word. And the compounding effect of that across time is going to lead to ruin. And the Bible warns us at length about the importance of keeping your word. And as I was looking up kind of some ideas for this episode, I happened upon this great dialogue in Game of Thrones where Jon Snow is talking to Tyrion. And he says, when enough people make false promises, words stop meaning anything. Then there are no more answers, only better and better lies. And I believe that wholeheartedly. This all begins on a micro scale with one false promise. And then that leads to another and then another. And then eventually you get to the macro scale where you can look at things like politicians can lie straight to your face with a smile on. You get men who own businesses that can lie to their employees while they work sinister crap behind closed doors. We begin to lose our sense of real shame because we've fallen so far down the rabbit hole of being false. Good men will not do this, fellas. Your word is your honor. You will not find good friends. You will not find a great marriage. You're not going to have a fruitful relationship with God. You're not going to have a great connection with your children. You're not going to be a desirable person because you don't have the ability to be trustworthy. Loneliness only ensues when you're willing to trade your word for nothing. That lesson was renewed to me last week in a somewhat harsh reminder. And just understand that you are only as good as your word, and you should honor it always. You will always be blessed beyond measure when you guys do that. In other news, we will be moved this week. My garage gym will be done, even in the absence of this bike. It's going to be beautiful. I'm grateful for it. Thank you for everyone who's reached out and said good luck with the move. Even some people have offered to help. That's crazy. But happy Monday, boys. I love you all. God bless. Be strong. Let's get after it. Share this out with your people. have a hell of a week, boys. We'll see you.